Hey guys, my name is Meow, and today Call of Duty Modern Warfare just had its multiplayer reveal, and I gotta admit, it's looking fairly impressive. The first thing that really caught me by surprise is that while at its core it still looks like a Call of Duty game, it also resembles a lot more like something like Battlefield. Now I know you're probably thinking right now, there's no way it looks like Battlefield. They're two completely different games. Battlefield has always been about large-scale gameplay, infantry and vehicles intermix and all the different dynamics that allows for, while Call of Duty is basically the opposite of that. And so I would have agreed with you guys, but until what we saw today. According to this reveal, they've stated that there's going to be maps and modes that support 20 versus 20. According to a couple of news outlets that had a chance to play the game earlier, they were talking to some developers that stated that they're even thinking about bumping it up to 32 versus 32 or even having 100 players on their maps. On top of that, your weapon is now actually going to have physics. For the longest time, COD has been hit scan. As soon as you fired the weapon, your round immediately hit where you were aiming. That's no longer going to be the case. Every single weapon in this game is now going to have a travel time. There is now going to be drop to it, and you're going to have to compensate for that, just like the Battlefield franchise. Now, I realize that that is not exclusive to Battlefield, but hopefully you can kind of get where I'm going. And then finally, there is also going to be vehicles on these larger maps. Now, to my understanding, the only way that you're going to be able to actually unlock them is through the kill streak system, which we'll get to here in a second. There might be some other ways. Maybe there are a few vehicles that are lying around, but there is actually going to be infantry and vehicle gameplay intermixed in Modern Warfare. Now, as someone who really enjoys Battlefield, but admittedly has been pretty disappointed by the way they've been handling that franchise lately, all this information has me really excited. The thing that I want to learn more about, though, is how supportive are they going to be of this larger base gameplay content. They've already revealed that there is going to be 2 versus 2 and 6v6. And so if you're someone who wants to have that core Call of Duty experience like you've had in the past, that's more just infantry-based, fast-paced gameplay, that's still going to be there. But for someone who is actually intrigued by the 20 versus 20, more large-scale action, how much content is actually going to be available? You have to design maps specifically around that larger player count. If you just simply plopped 40 people down in the middle of a normal small Call of Duty map like in the past, that would just be complete chaos. And so what I want to learn is how many maps are actually going to support this larger gameplay. If it's only 1 or 2, that's going to be really disappointing. But if it's like every map, but they've just kind of made them larger, they open up sections that aren't available on these smaller sections to accommodate that larger player count, that is really what I want to learn more about. Now, as for the actual maps themselves, they're moving away from the standard Call of Duty formula. You guys probably noticed that every single map really just follows 3 different lanes. You've got the 2 on the side and then 1 simply down the middle. And while this works for an arena-style map design, it's worked well for them, it doesn't really make for the most immersive and realistic experience. And so what they're doing is that they're moving away from that and kind of going back to their roots like the original Modern Warfare, where things weren't as asymmetrical. Now, obviously, this is going to make map balance a bit more challenging, but it'll also hopefully make them feel more organic. It may also open up more gameplay options. That tower out in the distance that's exclusive to that section of the map is now going to be much more desirable if you're playing as a recon. There's no other tower on the other side of the map for the other team. That's the only one, and so you're going to kind of have to fight over it, and your team might have an advantage if you're able to secure these kind of key locations that are scattered around everywhere. Another thing that I'm really looking forward to is the incredible amount of customization. They're getting rid of the Pick 10 system. That's no longer going to be available, but the actual attachments and customization on the weapons themselves is being ramped up significantly. I think they said on some weapons there's going to be 60 different options for all the different attachments. There's going to be different barrels, there's going to be different undergrips, you're going to have a wide assortment of different optics, for example, and each and every single one of them is going to have strengths and weaknesses. For example, if you attach the short barrel, it's going to significantly significantly increase your aim down sight speed. You're also going to be able to move a bit faster, but the downsides is that the bullet velocity is going to be significantly reduced. The actual damage at range is going to drop, and you're also going to have less recoil control. These are all things you're going to have to consider when you're trying to customize your weapon. And while it remains to be seen how robust this system actually is, if there's only a few weapons or attachments that are actually viable and all the rest are worthless, then what's the point? But if they actually can make this work, this could be a big deal. This is actually going to allow you to really customize and tailor your weapon to your playstyle and allow for a lot more variety. If there's a weapon that you enjoy because of its close quarter potential, but you move on over to a map that's a bit more long range, you don't have to swap over to something else. You can actually tailor your attachments to that one specifically to make it more viable for those long range engagements. This system right here was probably the one thing that I was most excited about from the reveal. As long as they're able to make it work, I really do think that this is going to be a game changer and allow for a lot more gameplay and just variety in general for the next Call of Duty. Another thing that's really exciting is that they're going to be actually adding in night gameplay. You're going to be able to have night vision goggles, and it's going to change up the gameplay in a meaningful way. Your laser sight, if you decide to use one, is not only going to assist you to line up shots against other players, but it's also going to be seen by everyone else. And so if you have poor management of where you're aiming and you're running down a long hallway, everyone down that long hallway is going to see your laser sight bouncing around, and they can quickly round the corner and take you out because they have a general idea of where you are. All they have to do is follow that line to your exact position. Now, I'm not entirely sure how this is going to work out in the long term. Will there be different flashlights or different attachments? Is this literally just going to be the normal gameplay but with a night vision filter across it? If that's the case, that I will admit that's going to be a bit disappointing. But if you're able to dynamically change the light on a map, let's say you enter into a building and you turn off the lights or take out the lights with your weapon and then it becomes dark, having those kinds of gameplay elements could be phenomenal. We're gonna kind of have to wait and see what they do with that in the next couple of weeks. Another gameplay element that I was not expecting them to add are doors. Yeah, doors. Now, you might be thinking that this doesn't sound all that significant, but what they've described is that it's actually going to be quite meaningful. If you just simply want to move from point A to point B, you can charge on through, make a lot of noise. It's going to make an audible, loud opening sound, but you can just rush the objective if you so desire. But if you want to take things a bit more methodically and sneaky and not let your presence be known, you can slowly open them on up, peek on through, and then take anyone out that's on the other side. You can also use this strategically. If you're defending an objective and you want to block a line of sight because you're only one person, you can only watch so many angles, close the door. That way, if someone rushes on through, you're going to get that early warning sign that they're there, and hopefully that will give you the opportunity to take them out before they're able to take you down. And so I don't think this is going to necessarily be a game changer. It's definitely a simplistic element that I was not expecting that will hopefully add a little bit more depth on some of these maps. They also talked about how they are removing the score streak system, which has been pretty much the way that things have functioned in Call of Duty for the last couple of years, and are actually going back to just simply kill streaks. The things that you can actually unlock here are fairly substantial. Like I said at the beginning of today's video, if you want to, and you get enough kills, you're going to be able to call in a tank. The tank itself is going to have two different positions. You're going to have the driver, which is going to have the main cannon, and there's also going to be someone on top, if they want to, that's going to be able to man a second weapon. They also clarified that if you call one of these in on a smaller map, you don't get the tank, but you get something else. I don't believe they've shown it off just yet. Maybe that's something that they're going to be revealing in a later date, but that is also going to be available. The thing that I want to see, though, is how integral and how important are these vehicles going to be? Obviously, they're going to be quite powerful because it takes a significant amount of kills to actually reach or unlock them, but if you're playing on these larger modes and you're playing quite conservatively, these tanks or these vehicles might be something that are quite widespread, and I'm curious to see how everything is going to interact. And so hopefully you can kind of get where I was coming from when I said that this looks a lot more like the Battlefield franchise. Larger scale maps, vehicle, the attachment system, a lot more variety in the physics and the gameplay of the different weapons. This is gonna be a different Call of Duty from what we're used to. One thing that is worth noting is that there is going to be crossplay introduced day one. If you're playing on PC and you want to play with your PlayStation or Xbox buddies, that is going to be available. Now, I don't believe they've gone into the specific details quite yet on how exactly crossplay is going to function. I would imagine that if you're on Xbox or PlayStation and you're solo queue, that you're going to go against other console players. It'd be kind of unfair if you got queued against people that were on PC using a mouse and keyboard. But as soon as you do have a party with all the different platforms, then you might actually be going against people that are playing on PC. That still remains to be seen. In general, though, I really like what I saw today. I don't want to get my hopes up too much because it is Call of Duty. At the end of the day, we won't really know until we get our hands on it, but what we saw was really impressive. I like the direction that they're going with it. It still looks like Call of Duty, and I can only imagine that it's going to play quite similar, but the fact that they're trying to make it a little bit more realistic, they're upping the scale, as long as they do it well, they could be onto something great here, and I'm really hopeful that they are. Yeah, guys, that is about it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you guys thought about this reveal. Are you still hesitant about the new game? I'm sure many of you are. Did you like what you saw? Are you a bit disappointed? Give me your guys' thoughts down below. But yeah, guys, until next time, have a good one and take it easy.